let's try and get an absolute steer on this. We need a man who knows what he's talking about. Now, he's been on and off this programme for the last few years. It's always a pleasure to welcome to the programme Grant Harrold, former royal butler. Grant, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Thanks for having me back on.
It's lovely to have you back on the programme. Now, if anybody knows about manners, you do.
Hopefully.
Well, you should do, bearing in mind the people you've worked for. Is it the right thing to take food away from a restaurant, that, stuff that you haven't eaten?
Well, see, the problem is when I think of doggy bag, I mean, unfortunately in this country, doggy bag means another thing as well as obviously taking away food. So
yes.
It's kind of a term that I kind of avoid using.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to a restaurant, I always say to people that the only thing you should be leaving with is ideally the receipt, and not actually taking away any of the food or anything else for that matter, because you certainly wouldn't be asking to take away any of the cutlery or the tables or chairs.
Well, yeah, I suppose that is the point, isn't it? Because you've paid for it, but I mean, it's about the food that you're being given as well. It'd be more about the restaurant wasting their money. Actually, it's just thinking about this through logically. If they're putting too much food on the plate that you can't eat, then that's their profit, isn't it?
Well, see, the thing it does shock me is, and I've noticed more and more, especially in recent years, we all go to cabarets or to certain places, and they offer huge amounts of food, and for whatever reason, some of us obviously like to feel that we're getting our money's worth, which I can understand, and the plates do get piled quite high, and then of course we can't finish it, we can't eat it all, and of course people don't like waste, which is obviously not a bad thing, and of course this is where they've now got this idea of asking for the doggy bags. Now, doggy bags originally were actually, and I loved Maureen's story, it's absolutely priceless, they were actually for the dogs or for our animals to take the food away for them. And it was a very kind of subtle, it was very quietly done, where now it's becoming a really common thing. And again, as Maureen pointed out, it's something that the States obviously embrace. In fact, so much to the extent that even apparently they do it in tinfoil and kind of make animals and swans and God knows what else.
I've seen this. I have seen this where they turn it into an event. Now, when you said it's a common thing, it means a commonplace, or as in just that's a bit common.
Well. I don't put it this way. I don't think you'll often see the aristocracy popping into the local takeaway or restaurant and kind of asking for a doggy bag. But when I say commonplace, what I mean by that is it's something that more and more of us are doing, because it's kind of you hear about it, you see about it, and we think, why can't we ask for it? Because again, we've paid for it, so therefore we've got the right to take it away. But there is also a very serious side, and again, I'm very fortunate that I work closely with the Ritz. I do different events there, and I obviously don't know what their policies are, but what I do know is with a lot of establishments, there is a health and safety fact where they have to be very careful about you taking food off the premises. And it's not that obviously there's anything wrong with the food. It's if you then, again, you might get it given in one of these fancy foil things in the States, and you take it home and you leave it sitting out, or you leave it for a couple of days, and then you go to enjoy whatever that might have been, and then unfortunately you can get ill from it. And you do hear these awful stories where people then go and either sue or want something in return because of the experience. So
that's a very good point, Grant, actually, because as soon as you cede control of the food by allowing it to leave your premises, you could still be considered liable in law for the food that you've made.
Absolutely, and that's the society we live in today. Unfortunately, when something goes wrong, people do turn to the legal side of things, and it is unfortunate. And they might just then phone the establishment up and say, they might not have even had that, but they might say we've had food poisoning or we've had a bad experience. What are you going to give us in return so we don't make something of it? So this is why establishments, and I completely agree with all of them, they are right actually turn around to people and say, no, you shouldn't be doing that. And the fact that I think you mentioned this is kind of starting up in Scotland, they're trying to embrace it. It's a bit worrying. I'm going to have a word with my fellow Scots.
I think you are. There are a lot of things in Scotland that people are debating about at the moment. Before I let you go, Grant, you've worked at the very top of the butling professionals in the royal households. Would a royal ever leave food on their plate, his or her plate?
Well, see, I think with royals, or as I mentioned with aristocracy, I mean,
Yep.
the kind of, when you go to have a kind of dinner, let's just say you get invited to a kind of stately home or something,
Yes.
there's portion control. So, of course, you don't, it's not like going to the local cabaret. You have a certain amount of food that's manageable.
Yeah.
I mean, God help us if you sit down for a state dinner and you have your steaks, whatever, all piled on top of each other. I mean, it's not exactly a Desperate Dan movie. So it's something that you have to think about. When you have guests come into your home, you think about what you're going to give them, think about portion control, and also that's another thing. When you go to someone's home, please don't ask for a doggy bag, because again, God forbid, they might pick up the wrong doggy bag.
Indeed, and I just had a lovely image in my head for the Donald Trump state visit that the Queen takes him to a Toby Carvery, and that's a state dinner. That works for me.
No, what worries me more is that he actually takes the Queen to something like that, or even worse, a KFC. And God help, we will have a constitutional crisis at our hands.
Grant, thank you very much. Always a pleasure talking. Have a lovely day of it.
John, you too.
Grant Harrold there, former royal butler. I just want your views on this morning. Sorry, I just got this image of Donald Trump and Her Majesty the Queen and a Toby Carvery. Your thoughts, please, on Doggy Bag or Dump. 0345 905 949.